Welcome to Amazing Authorities with Mitch Carson. Scan the QR code to learn more about what Mitch can do for you. Mitch brings you the leaders in their field. Today's difference makers. It's Amazing Authorities with Mitch Carson.
How do you like Vegas, Shawn? Here we are. Welcome to the show, Amazing Authorities, and you are definitely an authority. We're going to dig into that in a little bit.
You want to know how I like Vegas?
Yes.
Well, it's been pretty good so far. I mean, I've been in my room for most of the time, other than hanging out with you, going to the different TV stations,
okay,
and eating some really good food.
Yeah.
Right? So it's been pretty good so far.
We had some good ribs for lunch, and now
absolutely.
we're relaxed, and we're in a relaxed state. We're coming down, and we get to talk about the leadership experience, your 2 books, and what the path forward is for Shawn Fair.
Okay.
That's about as serious as I'm going to get.
All right. So where do you want to start?
I want to start with, I don't need to go into your history so much as I want to see where you are now and where you're going. So let's talk about the leadership experience, which I find fascinating, and they will too.
Well, the Leadership Experience Tour is a program that's designed for speakers to get the exposure that they deserve. So we kind of cater to what we call the best kept secrets that's out there.
Okay.
These are folks that are very gifted. They're great communicators. They have the ability to engage and educate. Most of them cannot entertain, but that's what they learn when they come to the tour. And we provide a platform and a stage that allows them to video their story so that they can apply for paid speaking opportunities so that they can get on stages they want to actually get on.
Yeah, I mean, you told me a story recently. You were just in South Carolina. One of your clients, she killed it. She crushed it, as we say in the speaking industry. I mean, it was her, I don't know how many times she has done this, but she walked away with if you want to share the number, so it's a motivation for some people that are going to see this.
Well, the cool thing is that some of the speakers, they come through my coaching program, and we help them to create their own stage, which is exactly what happened to Dr. Tabitha. And at her own event, she was able to generate over $200,000 in revenue. Now,
$200,000 in revenue, TV land.
That's $200K, right? So, and it wasn't just the numbers that came from the event itself, but it was also from her coaching program, and so she was able to sell that to her target audience.
So any investment she made with you is minor compared to the return on investment she got.
What do you mean minor? It's nothing.
That's what I mean.
It is. I mean,
it's a drop in the bucket.
You know, because a person can come through my coaching program for $10,000. Right? She made $200,000. Right? So just imagine the return on that. But at the same time, the learning that they receive from being in the coaching program. By the way, that's her second event.
Okay.
She netted $56,000 from her first event.
Only $56,000.
$56,000.
Okay.
And then she made all the proper adjustments because we always debrief after every segment, and then she made the changes, and all of a sudden, boom, she's $200,000.
So the first one was 5.6 to 1,
and
the next one was, no, this is Las Vegas math, so you have to excuse me, 20 to 1. This is a betting, so these are the odds.
Yeah, I'm not
working with Shawn Fair, 20 to 1 after the second event. Now, is that rare, or was that an exception?
It's not rare. It's somewhat of the exception to a degree for the second one. Most of the speakers are anywhere between $12,000 to $25,000 for their first event.
Okay.
The second event, generally they're anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000. You know, but sometimes there are certain people, it's just something about them. They have the gift, they have the presence, they have the authority on stage. They've mastered the connection aspect of communicating with their audience, and because of that, the people that's in front of them are drawn to them. And she's a magnet, and she had that on the stage.
So she has what I would refer to as the it factor.
Yeah.
She's got it, the charisma component.
Yeah.
Can you teach that charisma component, or is that something that they're born with?
Well, I mean, there's certain things you can teach, Mitch, but sometimes people audition to be a part of the tour like this is not for them. They need to find a different profession. Like speaking is not it. But there's a lot of effective communicators that come through that we can develop that communication. So in other words, there's 3 things that individuals should do on stage if they want to be highly compensated speakers. 1, engage. 2, educate. And 3, entertain.
Okay.
The entertainment part is the one that most speakers miss. And it's not good enough for someone to tell a joke and no one laughs at it. Like, it needs to be funny. They need to practice it. It's very similar to a comedian who was delivering jokes on a stage. Well, me delivering a presentation is very the same way. In other words, I've mastered the content. There's aha moments strategically placed throughout the course of that presentation. I know exactly when the audience is going to laugh. I know exactly when the audience is going to be reflecting. I know exactly when I'm going to take them down. I'm going to make them feel bad. I know exactly when I'm going to bring them up out of the gutter. Like, the presentation is designed that way so that they're engaged and they're entertained and they're enjoying the content, but they're also learning something at the same time.
So let's go through those three again, just so they get it in TV land.
Engage,
First, engage,
educate, and entertain.
Engage, educate, entertain.
So let me just elaborate on the engagement part. You already know this, but 10% of communication is verbal. That's it. So whatever comes out of my mouth, that's only 10% of communication. 40% is pitch, tone, and rate of speech. And that's why sometimes I'm on a stage, I talk really fast, I discuss the engagement mechanism, and sometimes I slow down. It tends to bring people in. And 50% of communication is body language, it's face expressions, hand gestures, it's eye contact. And all I try to tell folks is this, is that 90% of communication is nonverbal. And speakers who master the nonverbal aspects of communication are some of the best communicators in the world. And we focus in on that when they come through the tour. We prepare them to deliver that nonverbal aspect when they're on the stage.
Well, I agree with you completely. My undergraduate degree was in communication, in mass communications as a journalist, former journalist. And that was emphasized very heavily. I mean, using your hands, not pointing at an audience versus open hand, some of these things. Do you teach that in the experience?
Well, absolutely. I mean, we want you to be gracious with your hands. And
how about pointing?
Well, no, pointing is bad because
that's bad too,
because that's bad when you do something like that. But being gracious,
that was grandma,
right? Using, like, if I'm counting down, 1, 2, 3, like, whatever's coming out of my mouth, my hand should be communicating something that's very similar. And a lot of times people receive the communication better when they're receiving 2 forms or even 3 forms of communication, and the hands help with that.
Well, it's interesting we're talking about this. One of the important components I understood early on in the speaking business was the communication side. The only language that is the exception, I won't talk about, but in English you can't read and listen and consume at the same time. So slides should be visual, if you're using it, not with a lot of text, very little to no text, and talk about it so people can listen and see, but they can't match at the same time. And if you're able to accentuate with your hands, you're an effective communicator.
Well, absolutely. That's one of the reasons why the speakers that come to the tour, we don't allow them to have presentations.
Oh.
There is no presentations. It's just a big screen in the back that has their picture on it, and it's just them.
Oh, interesting.
Because we want the audience to focus in on them. And we don't allow them to pace back and forth. There's a square that they have to...
Kind of like TEDx with the circle.
Yeah, it's called the power position.
Okay.
So their feet have to be planted on the ground 6 inches apart. And they can move and they can jiggle all they want to as long as they don't move those 2 feet. But we're also... we're doing promo reels, and we want the left side and the right side of that space to be available. And if you're going back and forth, that presents a problem.
They're out of frame.
They're out of frame because if you're not a good videographer, the camera's constantly moving, trying to keep up with you. And it's a distraction to the audience when you're constantly pacing. I don't see the side of you versus seeing you and your full authority, and you're facing me directly the entire time.
That's what you teach, is they stay within a square.
That's correct.
Wow, wait till you see me speak.
Yeah.
Guess what I get off the stage?
Okay, well...
I don't know, the videographers have a hard time, but somebody, I have a different technique, but I respect this.
Well, let me just say this. It doesn't mean that you can't move when you're on the stage.
I don't jiggle though. Yeah. Is that okay?
Well, that's totally fine. But if you decide that you want to do that, that's perfect too.
Okay.
And we won't hold it against you if you don't jiggle the right way. But if there's a long stage, then you still have to address the other side of the audience. So I may move over to the other side like in 3 minutes or so, and I'll set up in the power position right there, and I will address the rest of the room with my eyes. And then 2 minutes later, I will then walk to the other side of the stage, get into my power position.
Got it.
But I'm not pacing. I'm not pacing.
That's different.
Yeah.
Yes, that can drive you crazy.
Yeah.
No, we're in total agreement.
Yeah.
Total agreement. So yes, you address, you maintain it, and then when you're asking for action, do you tell people to step forward or step backward?
When you're asking for action,
meaning like run to the back of the room, or you want these books, come and get them.
I want them to come forward.
Yes.
Right? Because the cameras generally are off in the back.
Sure.
Right? And we may have one that's on the side, but we want people to come forward so we can capture that activity.
Yes.
Because that's great marketing capital.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. The table rush.
Absolutely.
The excitement is what sells. And if they want you and you're elevated, that's fantastic. So we've got 2 books here. Mm-hmm. You're I think, is this your signature book, which is called Effective Leadership?
It is. It is Effective Leadership. It is the antidote to corporate dysfunction. Now, you're looking a certain way, so let me explain this to you.
I'm thinking corporate dysfunction. Isn't that rampant?
Yeah, well, it is. Most corporations that I've ever worked for, leadership was dysfunctional. And the reason that they were dysfunctional is because they didn't display the right attributes. Well, they may display some, but not all, or at least not the ones that are critical. And the ones that I talk about in this book, the first one is lead by example.
Okay.
And people often ask me, well, what does that mean to display or demonstrate lead by example in today's workplace? And all it means is this, is that you wouldn't ask your employees to do anything that you're unwilling to do yourself. Or it means that you do and you understand your own personal job and you do that 150% as it pertains to your employees. And I always ask the questions to the managers, is there anyone that's on your team right now that you should have fired a long time ago? I ask that question. And before they raise their hand, I stop them just in case that person might be in the room.
Right.
But a lot of them will say yes. And I says, well, that's a part of your job that directly interacts and affects your employees. Because the fact of the matter is, if you know that they should be fired, everybody else knows it too, because the employees, they see those negative attributes more than you actually see them. But you want to call me in to have a one-on-one coaching session to tell me about what it is I'm doing and not doing. But this person's been here for 18 months underperforming with a poor attitude. Their ability to coach, train, and hold folks accountable and discipline is minimized when that attribute is missing. So we talk about each one of them, we break them down so they understand this is why they're critical.
And that's why you wrote this book.
It's in the book, Mitch.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Well, I bought the book just now, and I found it quite effective because it says effective leadership.
Yeah, and it is very effective. It also covers the 3 styles of leadership.
What's the first one?
Well, the first one is autocratic leadership.
Autocratic.
Right? And an autocratic leader believes in discipline and corrective action.
Is that like a military general?
Something like that, meeting the deadlines. The military, they're notorious for autocratic leadership. And sometimes it's absolutely necessary, and it's a wonderful way to lead people. There's a time, there's a place, and there's a situation to demonstrate it.
Is that for crisis? Would that be crisis? You need an autocratic leader?
Well, it could be, or you might have a procrastinator that's on your team, or you may have a new employee who's green to the organization that don't know much about anything. I'm going to tell them what to do, when to do it, where to do it, how to do it, when they get back to me. But I also convey to leaders, you can't lead that way all the time.
Right.
Because if you lead that way all the time, you're going to have some frustrated and angry folks working for you.
Okay.
That's a fact.
Okay.
Number 2 is democratic leadership.
Okay.
They tend to believe in the team environment.
Like Japanese management.
Well, yeah, something along those lines. They believe they should have a relationship with each one of their team members, and their team members should have a relationship with one another. They give their team members a voice. Their feedback is very important to them. And it's a very team-oriented environment. And the question I always ask is, should the people that work for you like you? Well, I'm asking you. That requires an answer.
I would say no.
Yeah. So we get a lot of the old folks that say something like that. I'm sorry, but a lot of the boomers in the room, the answers generally is no.
They have to respect me.
But then I ask the question, because I get that answer quite a bit. If you have to work for someone that you don't like because they don't demonstrate the right leadership attributes or qualities, what kind of environment is it for that employee?
Probably uncomfortable or tense.
Yeah, it's a hostile, it's a frustrating environment. So it's very difficult to go to work for someone that you don't like. So we talk about how important the democratic style of leadership really is. But at the same time, if I have to get feedback from my employees all the time, if I allow my employees to make decisions within my team environment all the time, which falls under democratic leadership, you'll find that sometimes work is not getting done. And when work is not getting done, you end up with some frustrated and angry folks working for you.
Yeah.
So it's a great way to lead. You just can't lead that way all the time.
So you have to wear different hats.
Absolutely.
Depending on the situation.
Depending on the situation, the circumstance, or even the individual.
And what's number 3?
It's called free reign leadership. Right? So there's some managers, they've had folks working for them for 5, 6, 7 years. They think like they think. They do what they do. They know some of the same things they know. They come to work with a positive attitude. They're productive in doing their jobs. Right? They're great at their relationships with other employees. And because of that, the manager gives them authority within the position they hold in the organization and allows them to make decisions within their positions. It's a wonderful way to lead people. There's time, there's a place, and there's a situation for it. But the fact of the matter is, if I lead that way all the time, you're not sharing your authority anymore. You are giving your authority away. And if someone was to lead that way for too long, they become disconnected from their employees, disconnected from their job. And if they continue that style of leadership, they'll become disconnected from the organization because the perception would be is that they're not doing their job.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So we break those 3 down.
And that's what you discuss in detail and how they can apply.
This is why you buy the book.
Yeah, I bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to go through it and see how I can lead a little bit better.
Absolutely.
Because I tend to come from that autocratic style with a little bit of democracy.
Yeah.
I want their input, but it was more my training when I went through grad school. You just have to be respected, not liked.
Yeah.
You're not there to be liked. You're there to be respected and to get people motivated. To be fair, ethical, no touching and things of those nature. We're in America, got to be careful. So let's talk about this book, which is particular interest. You're showcasing all these great speakers.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to provide a tool or a marketing tool for highly skilled and professional speakers. And so we came up with this idea of developing a book called Let Present Stories of the World's Greatest Speakers. And so we believe, based on what we know about speaking, that we have some of the world's greatest speakers. And we give them the opportunity to tell their stories in a book form so that they have a marketing tool that they can sell when they're getting on stages if they don't have a book already written on their own. And so we thought this was a very easy way for a great stepping stone so that they can have that book in hand when they get on stage.
So what is in your future with the leadership tour? Where do you see this going?
Well, we would like to go into a bigger venue.
Okay.
And so we are looking at the Soundboard Room in the Motor City Casino in downtown Detroit.
Okay.
We've already got the numbers, and we're looking at potentially doing that by the end of this year. And so the Soundboard Room, if you don't know anything about it,
I don't.
Steve Harvey and the Temptations, like all the major singing groups, all the major comedians, that's where they go. And we plan on using that big stage to give our speakers a different look, a different feel, and put them in a situation that most of them have never been in before.
How about Las Vegas?
That would be nice. Well, Mitch,
Vegas.
That's where you kind of come in, right?
Yeah, this is the entertainment capital of the world.
We would love to do something here. Because we don't have any connections here, we're unfamiliar with this space, we really haven't done that, but I'm sure with our new relationship that we have.
I think there are a couple places we can show you. I've run many events here, and it's a great city. It's the #1 city in the world for events.
Yeah, so we
seconded by Orlando, but you have to deal with a lot of kids. This is adult Disney.
Yeah.
And a lot of options.
Well, I'm pretty sure we're going to get to that.
Got it.
Sure.
Well, that's great. And tell me about a case study of someone who, other than the lady from South Carolina, which you shared, we both have worked with Dr. Stacy Tidwell. Stacy with an EY, very important to showcase her. I got introduced to her through another one of your students, Jane Mukami, who then referred Stacy, and then we met through Stacy. But it was all this little network of people. Yeah. What do you see as an example with Stacy? Here's a very bright stone that you're polishing at the moment. She came here for media. What's the next step for a person like Stacy?
Just huge event. She's got the gift to communicate. She has the gift of connecting. And the next thing for her is having a signature event with at least 200 people in it. And once that happens, her whole life changes. Right? She does phenomenally well now. I believe within the next year, especially going through the program that I have her in at this point, that one, she won't even be recognizable before the end of next year.
Yeah,
her
I agree. She is major celebrity launch pad.
But I do want to say this. This is not uncommon within our environment. Dr. Barbara Sweeney, who is a principal, she called me about a week and a half ago and she said, Shawn, I'm thinking about quitting my job. And it's because the income that she's making on the platform is just underneath the income that she's making in her full-time job. And now she's ready to put the 8 hours in, maybe 10 or 12, because it's never 8. Sometimes it's like 14 hours a day in your own business. And she knows that she can take that 110, 120 that she's making on the platform side and turn it into 400,000 or 500,000 if she just put the time in.
Yeah, and if she creates courses, if she creates workshops, masterminds, all these are back-end income. It's a lot more than just selling at an event.
She has now done 4 events, 4 in the last year and a half.
Can you talk about her income?
She's right around 110, 120 on the platform side.
Okay.
Right. She just she got a magazine now. She also just launched an anthology. So the ancillary products are now starting to build, which is extremely important. 365 days is in a year. I have 3 different events over the course of the year. We sell products about 342 days, anywhere between 1 to 7 products every single day. And it's because of the ancillary products. And all of them understand going through the program that anytime you have a signature event, there are organic legs that start to grow underneath it. You just follow the legs. The signature event is the best marketing tool they can ever develop, and that is a major focus for every one of the speakers that come to the coaching program.
Oh, that's great. And if someone were to come in brand new, what's the process? Because you also embrace a all-in-one software solution that you offer people. What does that do for them? So walk us through the process. Because this is going to be helpful for somebody that's brand new, has heard about Shawn, your leadership tour. What happens?
Can I be frank? Can I be honest with you?
Of course. I hope you have been.
Yeah. Well, the system is not something that we offer right off the bat.
Okay.
Because generally, we look at the social media, and most people's social media it needs some work.
Okay.
We Google them, and we look at the Google, and 9 times out of 10, that needs some work. And we look at the website, and 9 times out of 10, the website needs to work. And so I always tell folks, if you have a website and it looks like you did it, it's a bad website.
Got it.
So no matter where someone looks, they need to see excellence everywhere. So what we do is within the first 3 months, we change all of that.
So it's brand congruency.
Right. So when they come to the tour, right, the Leadership Experience Tour, not only are they getting their footage on stage, and they're getting the rehearsal footage, and they're getting 4 different interviews with different backdrops, and they're getting their branding photo work done, all of that footage and content is chopped up to transform their social media. That's number 1. Number 2, we put them into some high-ranking publications, so that way when someone is searching their name, they see the publications on page 1, 2, 3, and 4. And those news platforms are basically saying that they're very credible at what it is that they do. And because when we give them the system and we do their ads, and people start to click on the ads, and the boss is asking them all these questions, we're getting their information. Well, they're not going to give you the information because most of them don't know who they are. And the first thing they do is they Google them, they go to their social media, and they look at their webpage. And if those 3 things don't line up as excellence, they're not giving the phone number or the email address. We transform that first. Then we offer the system and the
So
ads.
level 1 is facelift.
Right. Foundational.
Facelift.
Yes.
Brand congruency.
Absolutely.
Cleaning it all up. Making you look good on paper. Putting the right suit on. Then you start working on the inside.
Absolutely. So if you look at every one of the people that's come through my coaching program, when they first came in, and then you look at them 4 months later, major difference as to what they look like.
You've just spent 2 days here in Las Vegas. You've been on a whirlwind media tour. Normally a PR agency would charge 10 grand a month, probably 6-month minimum contract, and perform maybe 2 TV stations and a radio show, possibly after depositing your check. What's your experience been like this after going through this so quickly, and now you're on this half-hour show, which is broadcast through NBC. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, the experience has been absolutely phenomenal, right? To work with someone who has the access, right, is really important. And I tell folks all the time that are looking for PR people, if you have a PR person who do not have the access or the phone number, the Rolodex, where they can pick up and call people that can get you onto these news platforms, probably not a good PR person to work with. The fact that you are able to get me into these news television shows within a short period of time says that you're a pro at what it is that you do. And the value of this is probably 20 grand. Easy 20 grand. We did 3 television shows, we did a radio show, and now we're here doing this particular show. All within 2 days.
2 days.
All within 2 days. The footage that I've gained over the past 2 days would generally take folks 3 or 4 years to get.
Correct.
Right, working with other PR folks. You're charging something that is absolutely reasonable, and you get the results right away.
So, Shawn.
Yes, sir.
Outstanding
it was a
interview.
pleasure. Thank you very much.
Really good show.
Thank you very
And
much.
This is Mitch signing off with Shawn Fair, the amazing authority guest that we had today, all the way from Motor City. He's here in Las Vegas. Woo! Okay, Shawn Fair.
Let Mitch Carson help you. Mitch's background includes starting his first business in college and selling it for more than 7 figures by the age of 28. His second startup with partners, Planet Recycling Incorporated, was sold in 1993 to Waste Management. Mitch has trained over 600 speakers, authors, coaches, consultants, CEOs, and helped them reach their goals. Many have gone on to be New York Times best-selling authors, Wall Street Journal authors. Many have been able to experience a life transformation, as few are able to see, experience, and realize their personal power. Many have gone on to become keynote speakers in their native countries, become authors, and recognized experts. Let Mitch help you reach your goals. Your dreams of success can become reality. Head to MitchCarson.com or scan the QR code now to learn more.